In Ierland protesteert men al dagenlang tegen de hoge brandstofprijzen. En als klap op de vuurpijl introduceerde de overheid de Ierse digital ID. We bespreken live in de uitzending met Ivor Cummins de protesten, de onvrede en lancering van de Ierse digitale identiteit. Waar volgens de volgende video de Ieren bijzonder blij mee zouden zijn.
I will use it even at my age. And I'm not computer literate.
It sounds like a great idea.
I think it's a very good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
The main value of the digital wallet would be convenience.
Having everything in one place, that things be done quick and easy.
Any requirement you have for public documents, it'd be great to know they're stored in one place and you can easily access them.
Main benefit of any wallet would be just convenience, just having everything one touch, easy to carry. I never lose my documents ever again, which is exciting for me.
I have so many documents around me all the time, and I think it's just something I'd want to do using the digital wallet.
You always have your phone on you, and also you wouldn't be as scared of losing the actual papers. Right now we all go around carrying our passports, and that can be quite stressful.
I would like to store my passport and my public services card in the wallet.
I'd like to store any documents to do with finance, travel.
Definitely my driver's license. I could show that to a guard or something on my phone instead of always having to have it in the car.
Any medical card that I have, my PPSN card, all that kind of stuff that I carry around in my daily wallet, which I hate carrying around now.
I think it will make things easier for people to engage with a wide range of services. Do I think I'll use the wallet? Yeah, definitely I do.
It'd be done real quick, real efficient, no messing.
It would help the climate, so it'd be less printing.
If it's stored in one place and it's easily accessible, fair play.
I definitely think I would use the digital wallet.
Ivor, welcome to the show. We just watched a video from the Irish government, and these people weren't even enthusiastic. They were ecstatic almost. Was I watching propaganda? Does this reflect the reality in your country?
Yeah, absolute propaganda, David. I mean, obviously, and in fairness, I often say you've got to respect the, quote, bad guys, whether it's Rockefeller Foundation or the UN or the EU, totalitarian kind of regime. You know, they do things pretty well. They do propaganda well. Now, that was particularly easy for them. You send a guy out, you interview a load of people. Half of them say, no, I don't want to be in a digital prison. And a quarter of them say, yeah, I think it's okay. And 10% enthuse about it, like the cattle they are. And you just pick the 10% and run with that.
Yes, by the way, David, you talked to earlier. I'm Jerry. Nice to meet you.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
No, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Explain to us, what is it exactly, that the digital ID in Ireland? What is it?
Well, yeah, it's the Digital ID 2030 program. And any astute listener will say, hold on a minute, is that to do with Agenda 2030? Of course it has. So Agenda 2030, I think the important thing really for people to understand first and foremost is people think this is coming from, say, the Irish government for convenience and to help the people, okay? It's not coming from the Irish government. So many people will know, well, the EU have legally mandated Ireland to do this by the end of 2026, and I think out to private industry by the end of 2027. So then you could say, well, it's the EU who is doing this to us. But then you've got to understand that the EU, the UN, Rockefeller Foundation, Davos, Bilderberg are all part of the same big machine, okay? And it's for the management and control of Western populations. So I think if people understand this is coming from what I just described, it will help them decide on whether or not it comes with our best intentions in mind.
Do you know why Ireland?
Yeah, when I worked in corporate at a management section manager level, I used to say to people around 10 or 15 years ago that Ireland is a vassal state for the pharmaceutical industry and the corporates in general, because we got so much GDP from foreign direct investment and we got some jobs for the boys and the politicians were happy. A lot of money went through Ireland with very low taxes paid by the corporations. We also had a role in Europe to set pharmaceutical prices. So we were kind of a vassal of big corporate, okay? But that was way, way back. In the last 5 or 6 years since the COVID scenario, Ireland has become a total vassal, and I would say a prototyping facility for globalist strategies. So Ireland is English-speaking, it's in Europe. Our politicians are very amenable to doffing the cap or just reporting direct to EU and UN and doing anything they want. So we're a great small population to try things out in.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on what's going on with the protests in Ireland? What is the reason behind them right now?
Well, the surface reason is the big increase in fuel prices. And in Ireland, I think around 60% of what you pay per litre is tax. And the government put on tax, and then they put on VAT tax on top of the taxed amount. So it's huge.
Sounds like
and
Holland.
The whole similar broadly, I'd say. I don't have all the numbers, yeah. But the farmers, there's been a war on farmers. Certainly Netherlands, we saw that in a major way. But in Ireland too, there's a relentless push to remove resilience and local healthy foods from the countries of Europe and to make the countries more dependent on corporate shipped-in foods and processed foods. So that's the war on farmers. So they're suffering for a long time. But the farming organisations are pretty much in with the politicians and they're on board with the plans. So the individual farmers suffering. The hauliers then with the fuel costs, they're getting crushed as well. And then you have other working class people feeling crushed, quite rightly. So the rising was triggered by the fuel costs shooting up with this proxy war, the Iran thing. But it's really reflecting distrust and anger at the government and the puppeticians, as I call them, who clearly report above to the EU and the UN, and they do not have the Irish people's interests at heart. So the rising is a lot more than fuel.
So unlike in the Netherlands, in your country, people are actually taken to the streets. So the farmers mostly right now are protesting.
Yes, generally speaking, there's huge public support, which is only happens when the people are becoming aware. So it's a very good sign. Yeah. We had the water protests when they tried to take a corporate ownership model on our water and charge everyone, and also move the ownership away from the state towards privatization. People really...
Can you explain that? Because what's that exactly?
Yeah, this is, at a guess, around 15 years ago. They tried to sell us that the water system was going to be all changed with meters and it was going to be modernized. But what was really happening was the ownership of the water was being moved into legal structures that would be more amenable to become collateral and resources for globalist corporate. Now, most people didn't realize that, and most people rose up because they were going to be charged for their water when they were already screwed by taxes, which should pay for the water treatment. So the people rose up, but some of them, a fair proportion, were aware that it was much worse than being charged. It was setting up a privatized model for the very water we drink. So there were huge protests, and they were unstoppable, and they had to actually drop the whole program.
So the protest worked. Wow.
It worked.
Can you, final question, can you tell us if there's a solution in Ireland specifically for the current discontent, do you think?
The solution, and I've said this for many years since I've been online and out there after COVID, the solution broadly for the people to get back sovereignty, to get back autonomy, and to get back a country that they can actually enjoy living in is to push back really hard on our puppet politicians. Not just with small protests, it has to be across the board. And I've said for a long time, the crucial thing is awareness in the people. Because the fact is, and I've often said this with my international network of Mavericks and other colleagues, if the people in Ireland, let's say 30% of them knew what I knew, or you guys know in the network, they just knew this, everything would change. So right now the problem is the people know something's really rotten, but they're not sure exactly what it is or who's doing it to them. But if they were aware, the people would take care of the problem.
Yeah.
They really would.
I would strongly advise our audience to start following you if they don't already on YouTube. They can find your channel there. Ivor Cummins, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hier groeit iets bijzonders. Blad voor blad, krachtig en puur. De Moringa Miracle Tree. Wij verwerken deze wonderboom tot hoogwaardige oliën, supplementen en producten die jouw dagelijkse welzijn versterken. Rechtstreeks vanuit onze eigen kas in Brabant. Ontdek een wereld vol natuurlijke gezondheid op moringasfinest.nl. En met de code Lighthouse TV krijgt u 10% korting op uw eerste bestelling.